Okay, please go to our course in Canvas and go to this week's module, which is W9, March 18th, and I'd like you to download the Class 9 files. As always, go ahead and download those. All right, if you don't have Photoshop launched, please also launch Photoshop. Okay, today what we're going to be talking about are Photoshop masks. Masks are a way of creating selections that are non-destructive, meaning you can create a selection and hide part of an image, yet you're not really deleting it fully from the image. Another thing that I want to mention, and this is going to become more relevant in a minute, is keep in mind this saying, white reveals and black conceals. That's going to become a little bit more meaningful as we work with masks. Okay, if you haven't opened the first image yet, please do that. Go ahead and go File, Open, navigate to the folder that I had you download. Okay, let me go ahead and find it. Here's my folder. In this folder, I've got two other folders. Please go into the first folder called Masks, Photoshop Class. Open up this first image. Okay, you won't have this first layer. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, again, we're talking about Photoshop masks today. Go ahead and rearrange these a little bit. Okay, if you don't have your layer palette open, please open up your layer palette as well. And hopefully you've got your layer palette right in front of you, and you're going to notice that I have two images in this file. We're going to add a layer mask to layer 1. So if you go to the bottom of your layer palette, you're going to have a little icon that looks like a rectangle with a black circle in it. Go ahead and click on that. When you do that, it adds a new thumbnail to your layer palette, and this is the mask. Okay? Now what I'd like you to do, again, keep in mind that white reveals and black conceals, and what I'd like you to do is have a black brush. Note that our mask right here is white right now. So go ahead and click on your color chip at the bottom of your toolbar. Go ahead and select black. Go to your paintbrush. Okay, this one right here. Little movies came on. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just increase the size of my paintbrush. That's pretty, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the mask because I'm going to paint with black on the mask. So if I go into my document and start using my paintbrush, you can see it's revealing what's under my image. Okay. Notice that the mask here, where I painted black, I can now see underneath it. It kind of pops a hole through this image. Okay, conversely, if I go ahead and change my brush to a white brush, I've got a white brush here, I go back over that mask, now I'm brushing back on white and bringing back the image. Again, white is revealing everything on this mask, and black is concealing it. Okay, we can delete that mask. We're going to actually replace it. So go ahead and let's get rid of this lock. So click on the little lock icon, select the mask, and go ahead and hit your trash can. Photoshop says apply mask before removing. Just delete it. Okay. All All right, we're going to go ahead and add a mask again. Again, at the bottom of your layer palette, you've got a little icon. I think it's supposed to look like a camera. At least it does to me. But it's a rectangle with a black circle. I'll go ahead and add the layer mask again. For this image, I actually saved a selection for you, and we're going to load the selection. So I'm going to go Select, Load Selection. Okay. From this window that pops up, go under the channel, drop down, and pick Bird. Again, I just named it Bird. Okay. So far what we've done is we painted with a black and white brush on the mask. You can also use selections to do the same thing. So if I go ahead and go Edit, Fill, and from the Fill drop down, I select black. Okay, now I've just popped a hole in this layer mask. I'm going to go ahead and go Edit, Undo Fill. Now, since I've got the selection, if I actually wanted to get rid of the background, what I would do is inverse that selection. I would go under my Select menu and go Inverse. Again, what I want to do is fill this selection, this area right here, with black. So I'm going to go Edit, Fill, and I'm going to select black. Okay. By the way, you can always use your paint bucket to select and fill that mask. I just know that if you go Edit, Fill, black is one of your selections and also white is. I'm going to go ahead and stop the selection, select Deselect. Again, if I wanted maybe to pop a hole in the eye here, what I'd want to do is paint on my mask right here with a black brush. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on my paint chip, turn my brush to black again, go into, again, I've got the mask selected. You can see the difference when it's selected and not selected. Now it's selected. If I go ahead and brush, I'm now popping a hole in that image. Again, to bring it back, I'd switch the brush to white and bring it back. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the next image. No need to save this. And let's go File, Open, navigate to the folder I gave you, and go ahead and open up the next image. By the way, if you look in my Finder window here, notice that my thumbnail has a gray background and this is actually a cactus is white. That's actually a visual indicator for you that I've actually saved a selection. Otherwise, you'd actually see the cactus here. Anyway, that's just for your knowledge. Okay, got it here. Again, let's try that again. Guess I closed my layer palette. All right. Again, first thing we did last time is create the mask. You can also do that later, meaning you could go Select, Load Selection. Again, this is a pre-created selection that I saved for you. And this one is called Alpha 1, and go ahead and say OK. You can go ahead and create the mask. And Photoshop automatically filled the mask. I'm going to go ahead and go Edit, Undo Mask. I'm going to inverse my selection. Select Inverse. Click the icon again at the bottom of the layer palette. And there we go. Now I can take this image and I can bring it into another file if I was trying to do a composite. I'm going to go ahead and close this image. I'm going to go ahead and open the next one. All right, go ahead and go into your 05 clipping mask. In this, I've got an image of a clock. Go ahead and open this image up. Another kind of mask, and I think we talked about this last week, is you can create a mask using type. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and create a new layer. So in your layer palette, click on the new layer icon, and let's go ahead and type out clock. Go ahead and go to your T tool, click in the document, and go ahead and type out the word clock. Okay, I want it much, much bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and select over it and go ahead and pop up this type. And I also want, what we're going to do is we're going to create a mask of the text. I want to be able to see the image inside the text. Now, if I've got a really thin font like this, it's not going to work out very well. What I really want is kind of a chunky, thick font. So I'm going to go ahead and change the font selection to something that's much more bold. I don't like that one. I'll go ahead and go to this one. Lower the font size just a touch. Okay, in order to create a mask from your text, what you need to do is make sure that your image is on top. I think that's one thing that students forget to do. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to the top, but if I look, I actually have a lock on this image. I won't be able to move it until I remove the lock. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click and say okay to remove that lock. I'm going to move the image to the top. Okay, there's two ways to do this. The first way is to right click on your mouse and go ahead and create mask. Okay, that's one way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and edit undo. Another way to do it is to go under the layer menu and create clipping mask. Same thing, just an extra way of doing it. Once you create that mask, you can always move the image around behind it. So this is a text mask. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go File, Open, navigate to the folder I gave you. Okay, we did that one. Let's go into 06 Soften Face. Okay, go ahead and open up this image. All right, what I'd like to do is soften this lady's face. I mean, she's got gorgeous eyes. She actually has a really good complexion, but what I want to do is give her kind of a magazine cover look. And I'm going to use masks to do that. So what I'm going to do with this image is I'm actually going to duplicate this layer. I want to have two layers of the same image. So I'm going to select the layer. There are two ways again to do this. With Photoshop, there are just so many ways of really doing the same sort of thing. I could use the flyout menu here and duplicate layer. That's one way of doing it. Or I could just go under the main layer menu and duplicate layer. That works well as well. Now, what I'm going to do with this top layer is I'm going to slightly blur it. That way it's actually going to give kind of a smoother look to her face. The problem with doing that, though, it's also going to make things blurry that I don't want to be blurry. But the solution to that is masks. So with this layer selected, I'm going to go under Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'll just exaggerate it. I probably wouldn't want to do this much in reality, but just to prove my point, I'm going to go ahead and say okay. Now, her skin looks really smooth, except I really want to bring back her eyes. So what I want to do is I want to pop a hole using mask through this top image to reveal her eyes that